morning, everyone, and welcome back to the Grindhouse, where we drink coffee and talk about movies. My name is Leah Diana, and with my boyfriend and co-host, Shawn Tetrault, we will be turning back the reels to 1997. A rescue crew investigates a spaceship that disappeared into a black hole and has now returned with someone or something on board. Ooh. Let's get into it.
At 0300 this morning, TDRS picked up an automated navigation beacon broadcasting at 2-minute intervals in Neptune orbit.
This is incredible. It's the Event Horizon. She's come back.
The Event Horizon is the culmination of a secret government project to create a spacecraft capable of faster-than-light flight. The ship doesn't really go faster than light. What it does is it creates a dimensional gateway that allows it to jump instantaneously from one point of the universe to another light years away.
Where's she been for the last 7 years, Doctor?
That's what we're here to find out.
After 7 years in deep space,
There were 18 people on board this ship when it disappeared. I want them all accounted for.
Opening outer door.
it came back abandoned.
Any crew?
Negative. This place is a tomb.
But it didn't come back alone.
Ship has been beyond the boundaries of our universe. Who knows where it's been? And what it's brought back with it.
The ship is reacting to us, and the reactions are getting stronger.
What are you telling me? That this ship is alive?
I have such one thing to show you.
Oh my God!
It knows my secrets. It knows my fears.
Vacate. I want off this ship.
I can't leave.
She won't let you.
God help us.
Spread the word, you dirty cocksuckers. Tell all your grave robbing friends of what the matter is city now!
The nightmare of insane murder.
From the depths of hell.
Only at the Grindhouse.
Hello.
Ora.
We are back.
Yep.
And this week, we are heading into space.
The Final Frontier. Oh, wrong movie.
The not-so-final frontier.
Not so Final Frontier.
This week, we are enjoying our podcasting time with Barissimo Coffee's Caramel Macchiato. Cheers.
Oh, I put English toffee in it. It tastes like crap. Sorry, guys.
Fairly bland brew, if I have to say. It's not...
It's hot, wet coffee.
It's hot,
cold.
black, and caffeinated.
Yep.
That's all we need.
That's all we need.
So today we are covering Event Horizon.
Mm-hmm.
Why are we covering Event Horizon?
I thought this was one of the greatest horror movies I ever saw at the time. I don't think so anymore.
Oh boy. Well, before we dive into opinions, for those who don't know, Event Horizon was a science fiction horror film from 1997. Directed by Paul W.S. Anderson, not to be confused with Paul Thomas Anderson or Wes Anderson. Paul W.S. Anderson is most infamously known now from the Resident Evil franchise. This film was written by Philip Eisner, produced by Lawrence Gordon. It was made on a budget of $60 million and brought in a box office return of only $42 million. So technically it was somewhat of a failure. This movie's most famous, I think, for its all-star cast, including Lawrence Fishburne, Sam Neill, Kathleen Quinlan, Jolie Richardson. You've got...
How can you forget Lucius Malfoy?
You've got
Jason Isaacs.
You got Jason Isaacs. Richard T. Jones as Cooper. Jack Noseworthy as Justin. And, of course, the awesome Sean Pertwee as Smith. Or is it Smithy?
Smith, but they call him Smitty a couple of times.
Oh, okay. So, why was this so important to you to do for the podcast?
So, this is one of, like, the real first horror movies I actually watched. This movie came out in 97, and I believe I was, like, 13 when it came out. It was on HBO in, like, 98 or 99, if I remember. And we had HBO for a little bit because they would do those free HBO weekends. And I distinctly remember going, oh, what is this movie? I was alone. Nobody else was in the house. I watched it. I was terrified by this movie when I was a preteen. Terrified. Like, I was, 13, 14, almost 15 watching this movie. And I was like, oh my God, it's so good. So when I had known I loved it and I thought it was good. So during COVID, Scream Factory was putting out a special edition of the Blu-ray. And it was delayed for almost a year. Kind of for COVID, kind of because they were trying to find the infamous hellscape scenes that were lost to the salt mines. They had a bunch of leads for a while, and then it died, and then things were happening, and then it died, but it just reinvigorated that love for it for me. And this is the second time I've watched it since I purchased it, because it took like almost a year and a half to come in, because I bought it pre-COVID in like January 2020. And it didn't come in until I lived here. In I would say January or February this year it came in. It took a very long time.
So, yeah, when she says lost to the salt mine, she quite literally means
literally.
That. This is a film that's very heavily regarded because of how graphic
they're like the captain
like
log
the death
scenes.
The death scenes are essentially. Yeah. And in the final cut of the film, they're not really that bad. However, there's an infamy behind it because
there was a first cut that was vetoed.
There was a first cut that only a small audience saw that was then heavily edited down, and that footage was, I guess, taken away and stored in salt mines. That's what they did with a lot of film reels back then. And nobody's been able to find it for all these years.
Damaged or stolen or lost. They had a lot of leads, and they were Scream Factory was really good about keeping everybody updated. Like, they were convinced they had at least 20 minutes of new footage. They were convinced that they would be able to produce some of this for us. And when all the leads kind of went, people actually pulled out of buying the pre-order for this. I was like, this is a great pre-order. But
unfortunately, what we have is your basic theatrical cut of Event Horizon.
It does have a lot of stuff added to it.
It does have a lot of bonus features.
Yeah.
It doesn't, unfortunately, have the infamous cut that we have all hoped to see for all these years, but what can you do?
Yeah, I will say that I have watched everything. I've watched the deleted scene, the extended scenes. There are a lot of extended scenes and deleted scenes that should have been in this movie. Really should have. There was the whole explanation of Weir in the beginning where he's called in by the person who's telling him what he's going to be doing. And Weir has the same reaction that Smith has. Like, no, the Event Horizon's gone. It's lost. Stop. Just knock it off. because it was kind of tied, in my opinion, to his self-worth and the reason why his wife is gone. So, like, it was a good scene, and they took it out, and I'm like, why? We'll more get into it when we discuss why I actually very much consider throwing this out a window now.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. Like...
Your opinion has changed that much?
In a year.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay. I'm excited to get into this.
Yeah. It's kind of odd for me.
This movie opens after a brief title sequence, I guess you could call it, and
ridiculous 90s techno credits.
With a title card saying 2015 established a colony on Moon.
2015, huh? That was, I want to say 6 years ago? What were we doing in 2015? Abso-fucking-lutely nothing. NASA pretty much was in 2015, wasn't it? There's no...
I think they were struggling for sure, but...
Like, there is no way that there's a colony on the moon.
I love watching older movies now, and they use, like, these future dates that just don't make any sense.
If you're watching, say, Blade Runner in the 70s, 80s, and you're watching something older in the 60s, 2015 makes sense. This was 1997, guys.
They had high hopes.
Really stupid. Like, reading that made me go, I thought this was older. And then, like, now the Event Horizon goes missing in 2040. And then it shows back up in 2047. And my note was exactly, oh my god, my phone shut off. I don't believe any of this is going to happen in our lives. None of this that we're seeing. Like, they just built I'm gonna fuck all this up. And it's only because of Big Bang Theory that I know half of this shit. The Hadron Collider.
Yeah.
In Switzerland. They just built that. They've been testing it. And they have tiny little bits of evidence of dark matter. How are you going from 97, where this movie was made, to be like, oh, 2015, we made a colony on the moon. By 2040, we have a black hole generator and a ship?
Well, they still can't get us to Mars. Like, they haven't even begun colonizing the moon at this point. Like, and they want to. It's in there, the hope.
Yeah, but we've got celebrities going on,
excursions.
Rocket ship excursions, but, nothing to advance human civilization right now. So.
No.
This movie kind of...
Well, this movie was very ambitious, I think, for the time. We have very early instances of CGI use in this.
Which was...
It's horrible. Extremely noticeable.
Horrible. Yeah.
But at the time, it was the best way to show zero gravity.
Yeah. But I have a fight. Mr. Sam Neill was in another very famous movie in the 90s with CG. That CG was 4 years earlier, and it was a hell of a lot better.
It was also a much larger budget than this film had. It's Steven Spielberg, for the love of God.
Yeah, I mean, he couldn't have just shirked some of the Resident Evil money and been like, hey, let's put a little more effort into this.
No.
I'm actually very mad at this movie.
This movie, I have to say, is also one of the later instances of a studio still using miniatures for like spaceships.
The Event Horizon and the Lois and Clark are miniatures.
I was really happy to see that. I love when miniatures are used. I think they look way better than CG ships.
And you can see it when they're clamping the Lois and Clark onto, because I'm like, that looks like, and it clamps it so well. I'm like, that's really small miniatures. The details are really good.
Well, that's another moment where, like, a lot of the visual effects hold up pretty well in this movie.
Yeah.
But there are a few that don't work quite well.
No.
Like, when you first see the Lewis and Clark come up to the Event Horizon and clamp on, it's very obvious that those are, like, composited shots together. And
it's like they didn't use the Adobe Blur tool enough on the edges. I never noticed, but the horror dream that Dr. Ware has in the beginning, ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ... ...
Really?
It's not. I thought it was the captain that he was seeing floating. It's not. If you pay attention, it's the same markings he has at the end of the movie.
Oh, that I know. I just didn't know you didn't know that.
I did not notice that. So that was one thing where I was like, oh, cool, I noticed something new about this movie. So the minute the Event Horizon came back, she knew who her dad was. Like, oh, you created me. Oh, you've had tragedy. Let's send really odd wavelengths to be like, here's your future. It doesn't make sense. It would have made more sense if he had a horror dream about his wife again. And that was bothering him. Not about the ship as a whole. Like, the ship doesn't even, like, come into mind yet. At that scene, he hadn't even been told the ship is back yet. That scene that was deleted is, like, a little ways afterwards.
See, but I think that's part of the point. So, this movie's heavily ensconced in cosmic horror.
Yes.
It's that the elements of the unknown, the something greater than us that exists out there. And I feel like that would have been the like he's getting a feeling that something is wrong before it ever happens. You know what I mean? It's like a premonition. It's like something from the void is speaking to him.
I still don't think that should have been that soon. I think it was too soon.
Okay.
As somebody who took the time to watch the whole special edition that just came out, and saw the deleted scenes and saw the extended cuts, it would have made better sense if they pushed it later and left that scene where he meets his superior. It would have made sense because he's not thinking of the Event Horizon at all. He thinks Event Horizon's been lost. It's gone. It's never coming back. From a storytelling point, I think Paul Anderson missed a lot of steps. He did. He does with... I love Resident Evil. I do. I love all of the Resident Evils. They are stupid fun.
For some reason.
They're stupid fun. They're not good storytelling points. They're not. They're all over the place. His earlier movie, still all over the place. It should have been more of a cohesive story, and he's making mistakes from the first 5 minutes.
That's true. The early moments of this film are very heavily reminiscent of Ridley Scott's Alien.
The whole movie, the sets, the scenes, the greens, it's either Ridley Scott's Alien or it's Hellraiser. That's all this movie is, a calamity clash of both. That's all it is.
Yes.
There is very little original ideas in this movie, guys. That's my opinion.
And wouldn't you know it, I would highly consider this to be Paul Thomas Anderson's only good film. I've seen most of his stuff, and this is the only one I like to watch. And honestly, this time through, I didn't enjoy it as much.
No, I was literally cleaning up and doing stuff while watching this, because I've seen it a lot. I've seen it numerous times when I was younger, and I loved it. I loved every point of it. But now, you've ruined me. Now I've seen good horror. Now I've seen good movies and good ideas, and I'm like, this movie sucks. It does. It is not a good movie. And I know I'm going to get, like, bashed in the comments for this. But it's just like, I love this guy's work. I have not watched Resident Evil in about a decade. And I watched the last one within the last 5 years with a friend of mine. And the only reason why I watched the last one is because there's a Korean actor in the last one that I really wanted to see, and he is not in much, and he dies. So...
Spoilers.
I don't know his name, so I can't really spoil it that much for you.
Well, I don't know. I think growing up, this is definitely like a good introductory movie to people, and I think that's why a lot of people end up liking it the way they do. This one, like, for someone like me, at least, who's heavily experienced with the genre and who watches more horror movies than I can count, watching it now, it's hard to really enjoy it the way I did then.
Yeah.
The writing feels very...
Sorry.
The writing feels very rushed, like a little bit sloppy. It's I don't know. It doesn't play as well as I thought it did.
The only way I can describe it is a 7-year-old kid coming home going, "Oh my god, so there was this kid on the playground, and then we started playing with these blocks, and then this other kid came up and they punched him, and we ran after him, but then I was more concerned about the block, but then I went after him." It's a little kid, like, telling a story really fast, but it's like, "Oh, hang on. What happened to get there? Wait. Reel it back a little. Like, what's going on here? Like, why aren't you using common sense?" Like, there are so many common sense moments in this movie where you're like, even other horror movies wouldn't do that.
I think if they had paced it out a little more and like taken their time to really build the dread of everything, I think it would play better today.
It goes right into the horror too fast.
It really jumps straight in. This one, I don't know. The elements are all there. Like, I think all the cosmic horror is played really well. Like, they build things enough, but it's just not what I want it to be now.
The entity's not as scary as I'd like it to be.
No.
It's disturbing. It ticks every disturbing box. I don't need disturbing that much. I need horrifying. I need psychologically horrifying for this. Like, yeah, the moments where you're like, "Oh, there's blood on the console," then you see the fucking body parts and bits of all the crew members in the windows. That's horrifying. But that's it. That's all you get. Like, wait a minute. There should be more. There should be more of a mystery of, like, this psychological buildup to that part. It's like, "Oh, look at this." Well, that was too fat. Like, I don't have a chance to be like, "Oh my god." Yeah, you were shocked when you first saw it, but then you're like, "Oh, okay." So then you get to, they build up to this one scene of the raping and the grotesque and the murdering and the slow torture, but that's it. That's what everybody was worried about back then. And they took 90% of that out completely. You only see, and you can't even pause it. We've tried to do the pause thing where you catch things. It doesn't pause right. And you miss all of those good parts unless you've seen it over and over and over.
Which I have.
Yes, you have. I've seen maybe that part. I kind of like look away because I was like, "Oh, it's really gory." Now I get close to the TV going, "Oh, dude, yeah, he is smashing her from behind, isn't she?" Like, and it's not... This was billed as one of the goriest and grossest movies you'd see because of those scenes, those hellscape scenes. I have seen worse on, like, late night cable TV now.
Yeah, times have definitely changed. Like, a lot of the stuff we watch these days has much more violent shit than this movie probably ever even hoped to have.
Like, yeah, back in the 90s, this is gruesome, but now you're looking at it going, "Oh, didn't they do something like that on American Horror Story the other night?" Like, it's not as crazy anymore. I do, however, love the fact that he tries in the beginning to bring you to kind of like a horror suspense. There are small jump scares. There are small, like, what was that, moments that I'm appreciative, and you can see it in Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil as well, when you have those certain moments. But the scares just come way too fast. It's like you don't have enough of that. You have this much buildup rather than this much, and then you get right into the it doesn't stop after it happens.
Well, I don't know. I think one good thing that comes out of this film is the visual design.
Yes.
The sets are really well
gorgeous.
Conceived. Like, I think he actually based most of the design of the Event Horizon on, like, Gothic cathedrals.
Yes.
And
he had actually said that it's the Notre Dame Cathedral turned this way, which I think is beautiful. It has that kind of hell versus heaven, demonic kind of feel where it's almost beautiful, it's scary kind of feeling. I do love that, and that's actually one of the things that we watched in the special edition shit that's on this DVD. I don't remember Blu-ray. I don't remember.
A lot of the designs don't really make logical sense.
No.
Like, from an architectural standpoint, they're just dumb. Like, the core of the ship, for example. Like, the weird funhouse spinning hallway that leads up to the core.
Well, he does try to explain that it helps the demagnetization of the 3 things that are spinning around the core. But it does build up the suspense and the horror that, oh, this place is terrifying looking.
Yeah.
But then you have that long hallway, that long corridor that, imagine getting stuck in a meteor shower or, being in the middle of a fight. You hit that wrong, you had explosives on that whole ship's gone.
Yeah.
Like, from a design standpoint, as an exploration ship, it sounds really good, but the minute you get in trouble, that ship is...
kind of a
as
death
Cooper
trap.
says several times, the ship is fucked.
Yeah.
Like, that was my favorite line. Because there's not a lot of memorable lines in this movie. There are not. I have to say that. This ship is fucked is basically, or don't hit the ship. Like, it was all about the Lewis and Clark, in my opinion. Like, but I do appreciate the cast. The cast and the characters are fleshed out pretty well. You do know that Parker is having a hard time being away from her son because he's in a wheelchair, he's disabled, she's doesn't like being away from him. Smith, obviously, he's the cranky guy with anger issues. His lieutenant, I forget her name every time. Stark. She's very by the book, to the code lady. You kind of get that gist. I like Cooper. Cooper's always been my favorite. He's no nonsense, to the point kind of dude. Like, hey, you want some coffee? Do you want something hot and black inside of you? Like, I see you are the comic relief, sir. And I appreciate your comic relief in some of the bullshit that happens in this movie. You're introduced to Justin, who is Baby Bear the whole movie. I love that. And then my favorite is very young Mr. Jason Isaacs. He is probably my favorite character in this.
There's actually something really interesting I noticed this time that actually did make me appreciate this movie a little bit.
What was that?
So it involves the characters. The dynamic that they create together is almost like a dysfunctional family.
Yeah.
So you have Lawrence Fishburne, who's the overbearing father. He even says to Weir at one point, "Don't you walk away from me, mister."
Yep.
Like a dad would.
Yep.
You have Justin, who's the baby bear.
Mm-hmm. Smith, I feel, is the uncle.
Smith could be like like an angry uncle, and DJ could be like either another uncle or an older brother or something that's like haunted.
An older brother with a lot more anger issues than you'd think he should have.
Yeah. Cooper is definitely like a big brother to Baby Bear.
Yep.
And
Parker's definitely
the mom.
Yep.
The only I don't know what you'd really classify Stark as in that situation.
The really annoying older sister.
Older sister, yeah, I guess. And then the only one that technically doesn't fit in is Weir. Which is perfect because he's not supposed to.
He's not. Yeah, no. He's supposed to be the, oh, you're the engineer, you're the doctor. Like, oh, okay, you're here to just be like, we don't know why we're out here. We don't give a fuck about you. Like, what are we doing here? Can we go and go home? Because we don't want to put up with this bullshit. That's all he's there for.
It's almost like an adopted foster child that nobody wants around.
Oh, God. This time around, I noticed, because Sam Neill's standing there with, like, no shirt on, and he's just in, like, the stasis underwear. He is built very funny. He kind of reminds me of what Adam Driver looked like in Star Wars. When he's standing there with no shirt on, he's very bulky on top, and then he goes, "You're really little."
See, I wouldn't call that built funny. He's built realistically. He's not chiseled or
yeah,
fucking...
he's fit. But I'm just looking at him going, he looks like a box. He looks like somebody put a box on a torso for a torso. It's really interesting. And 10 minutes in the movie, we have tits.
Was it even 10 minutes?
I don't
know. It was
know.
pretty quick.
We wouldn't let us see the time when we paused it, but it was very, very quick. And I remember being a teenager going, oh my God, there's boobies on my TV. Now I'm like, dumbass, there's boobies on you. Like,
another thing I picked up on this time around was in the camera work. So this movie utilizes fairly standard 90s camera techniques for the most part.
Yeah.
Some dynamic camera moves here and there, but I noticed that I think it was right around the time that they were all stuck on the event horizon that you start seeing Anderson utilize Dutch angles. Really specifically. Okay. And I'm not sure if you know what a Dutch angle is.
I do not.
It's essentially when you take the camera and you shift it to one side slightly.
Okay. Yeah, he does do that quite a bit.
And he does that specifically with when shooting Dr. Weir. And I think that, at least to me, that puts you in his headspace and how his perception is skewing to the end. His mind is bending further and further to the point of breaking.
Yeah.
I thought that was a really interesting idea, and like if that was Paul Anderson's intention, kudos. That was a good one.
Yeah, because he kind of goes in as a normal guy, and then the minute they get into the ship, he just shifts very, very quickly. There's the influence of this entity taking what you're afraid of and almost like romanticizing it. Like, oh, your child's on here. Come play with your kid. You fully well know your kid is on Earth with your ex-husband.
Well, it's that same dynamic that Hellraiser utilizes. It's the like in Hellraiser, it's pain is pleasure. In this, it's kind of the same thing. Like the hellscape is really pure chaos and pain and torment, but it's viewed as beauty and and
almost to a passionate kind of point, which is like one thing that drove me crazy is, why is everybody smoking on an aircraft with artificial oxygen, with pure oxygen in 2040?
When were they smoking?
They were smoking almost the first half of the movie. They were literally sitting there smoking.
Oh, are we talking about like when they do the explanation of what?
Yeah.
All
and
right.
Almost all of them are sitting there smoking. It's like, you have pure oxygen on board this ship. Why are you smoking?
It was the 90s.
Like, what?
Oh, before we jump over that, that explanation scene of how the event horizon works.
Let me tell you something. That is my next 4 comments. And this is one of the reasons why I actually do not like this movie anymore. So, they're like, why are we here? Why are we here? Why are we here? Why did you drag us here? He explains it. He's like, in layman's terms, I'll give you the basic scientific. I understood what he said. And I'm an adult. Like, okay, you're basically, bending space. He's using all the terms. And it's like, all right, I get it. And they're like, do you speak English? Like, what the fuck? Why are you all such fucking assholes to this guy? No wonder he turns on you so fucking quickly.
Well, Lawrence Fishburne explains it. It's because they were pulled off of a very deserved leave to go on this essential suicide mission.
But at the same time, they could have said no.
In the military, you really can't say no. Orders are orders. And they are a military salvage team.
Did they say that point blank that they're a military salvage team? Or I thought that it was just a general salvage team.
I'm pretty sure they're a military salvage team.
I don't know.
There's a lot of things like throughout this film that they don't like touch on. Like for example, they work in a lot of things like that are supposed to be like hints toward possible like future things happening, like hypothetical futures.
Yeah.
That they're like, like each of the spacesuits, if you look at each of their suits, they have flags showing like political changes that have happened on Earth in the years leading up to, I think it's 2047.
Yeah.
So, like the British actors wear European Union flags with 22 stars. So it kind of like, you don't really know what the political landscape is. Like the military could have divisions like that now and stuff. So I'm pretty sure they're supposed to be military.
Oh. The other thing that bothered me is during the scene where they intercepted the transmission, and Weir says we couldn't figure out what they're saying in this. But then DJ turns around and goes, it's Latin. You're telling me a team of scientists couldn't figure out that was Latin? You can even, a lot of normal people can figure out, oh, that sounds a little bit like a dead language, like Latin.
Well,
I never noticed that. That bothered me. I'm like, wait a minute.
It's a plot device.
It is a plot device, but this is a top secret military government spacecraft experiment, and you're telling me that, oh, we couldn't figure out what this said. What?
Well, see, back then, like when this movie came out, a lot of people probably wouldn't have known what was Latin. I mean, scientists would have for sure, but like as an average film viewer, and then in '97, you probably wouldn't have thought twice about it. Just like the scene in the airlock with Justin. That is riddled with scientific inaccuracy.
Absolutely riddled.
Explosive decompression has basically been disproven at this point. Like when you go out into the vacuum of space, you essentially just, everything freezes.
Yep.
And you just die.
There's no way for you to... He wouldn't have survived that.
No.
The minute the decompression started, it would have gotten absolutely freezing cold, and all of his organs would have shut down from just pure not being able to function.
Right.
He's bleeding out, screaming in space.
Yeah, it doesn't
it's a
work.
vacuum. You wouldn't be able to get anything out. Like, that scene, 4 years, has been like, what?
However, I will, in its defense, that scene builds great tension. So, like, not only do you have Justin in the airlock talking crazy, the other characters are trying to talk him down, but then you also intercut that with Miller racing to reach him. Like, I think that was pretty...
It is a good tense moment.
Good.
That's where I appreciate the build-up. But I'm very much of, if you're going to make a movie with... Goddamn roommates. Squirrels. If you're going to make a movie where you have scientific fact that they have, like, all of these information, at the time, like, now they've just, like, within the last 10 years have disproven the whole, like, you're gonna explode the moment you go into space. No, you deep freeze. You're done. Like, there's nothing you can do about that. Like, but then, like, are you really gonna bleed out in space? You're not gonna bleed out in space like that. Like, do your research. Just do your research. A movie like this, I can, like, pass over a lot of it, but there's some of it where I'm like, this is a government-funded search and rescue of a secret mission. Somebody, somewhere, translated that and knew it was Latin. Like, maybe Weir didn't know it was Latin or wasn't aware of it, but I'm pretty sure if he had a huge debriefing on this mission, somebody would have told him it was Latin. I don't know, that bothered me that much. One of the things that really did bother me is, and I don't know if this was influence of the ship, but they almost hit the event horizon showing up. Like, you're going into the atmosphere, there's clouds, there's atmospheric pressure and shit like that. How do you almost hit the ship? With all the machines going off, beeping, telling you to stop. How do you almost hit that ship? That ship is enormous.
Another attempt at building tension, really.
It was a terrible attempt at building tension. But the humor is much needed. The humor in this movie is well placed. I appreciate the adult humor in this, where it's all like tension building, here's a little humor, here's a little humor. I like that. the umbilicus. They called the connector between the Lois and Clark to the umbilicus, and I went, ooh. Oh, that sounds gross. Umbilicus. I hated that. I hated it. Hated it.
Did you know that the initial rough cut of this movie got the MPAA's Kiss of Death?
What is the MPAA's Kiss of Death?
An NC-17 rating.
Oh. I honestly, if I was a filmmaker, I'd aim for that shit. Yes, I got an NC-17. Fuck you. You know?
I guess having just before this, Paul Anderson did Mortal Kombat, which was PG-13.
Wait a minute, he did Mortal Kombat?
Yes. So he was very keen to do something much more mature and gruesome. So I can definitely see why he pushed everything up like as much as he possibly could.
I mean, there's pushing to like, oh, we're going to push it by a little bit. And then there's pushing it to, oh, here's my idea for these hellscape scenes. What do you guys think? Dude. Was Mortal Kombat that hard on you, buddy?
He turned down X-Men to do this.
I actually am okay with that.
Instead, we got Bryan Singer.
Which X-Men are you talking about?
X-Men. Hugh Jackman, X-Men.
I've never seen any of the X-Men movies except for the Phoenix one that just came out.
But you know about them.
I know about them. So when everybody's like, oh, X-Men's great, I'm like, I don't know. I'm not sure. One thing I wish I could have seen this in theater with is that fucking that meat grinder Vertigo hallway. Imagine being in the theater in the front row and seeing that hallway and being like, oh, God.
Yeah, I definitely have to say, like, a lot of the choices made in this movie, like, visually...
For a theater.
They work really well.
Yeah.
Like, in 97 especially, the imagery throughout this film, like, would have been striking and it's memorable.
It is.
Like, there's reasons why that I've returned to this movie so many times in the past. Like, it's a good experience.
Visually, it's gorgeous. Story-wise,
I wish it had more to it,
yeah.
but unfortunately, it is what it is. Like, I think the ideas are there. They're just not executed to their full potential.
Yeah. Also, Raver lights equal advanced technology for the future.
Raver lights.
Scanning lights. When Justin's in the core room and he's like scanning for life forms, and it's just fucking laser lights. Just fucking laser grid lights.
Well,
I'm like, what?
Yeah, so...
Am I hating on this movie too much?
I think
Did it bother me?
I honestly think you're picking it apart.
I am. I was really upset with this.
A lot of these things are done for visual effect. The lights are to showcase the scanning capability. Like, the only reason you can see the lights the way you can is because of the atmospheric fog that's throughout the whole fucking ship. Like, I definitely think you're picking it apart a little too hard, but it's not the greatest film ever made.
It's not. But I'm going to pick this scene apart.
Oh boy.
Justin. Baby Bear. Youngest in the crew. Very eager to please the captain and make everybody like him. Why would you send him into the core room when you know he's just fucking bait for this like, I think that was, once they got the funky feelings going on that ship, why would you send Baby Bear? Why wouldn't you have sent the other girl?
Well, they kind of sent everybody everywhere.
They did, but I thought sending Baby Bear was I like Baby Bear, and he's the one that gets mind fucked the hardest. Because he just goes right into the hellscape. Just, oh, look at this in liquid. Oh, cool.
You know, I actually thought his performance was like the weakest.
I thought he did some of the better one.
See, I thought in the beginning of the movie, his performance was really shitty. And then, like, once he got, like, possessed...
And he was in the airlock.
Then his performance was great.
Well, I think he did that intentionally.
But it was just so bad at first.
I mean,
it was so bad.
He's a young, eager guy. He's like, yeah, I'm going to please everybody. I'm going to do a great job. Like, and then he gets mind raped. Like, he literally goes into the hell dimension. He's dragged in there. God only knows. We don't know what he sees. We don't know what he experiences in that probably less than 20-minute session being in there.
But who knows what that felt like to him?
It could have been years. It could, honestly, and I think that when Weir is showing Miller exactly what could be happening, he's only showing, he shows Parker, he shows Baby Bear, and he shows the blonde chick.
Stark.
I'm sorry. All I can think in my head is I made a joke going, right before the movie, I was like, oh, see, we're going to have the less than cool Laura Dern replacement in this movie. That's all I can think of in my head. It was a joke. I apologize. I love both Laura Dern and this blonde lady. I just don't remember her name. I've seen her in a lot of other movies too. Like, she was big in the 90s.
Yeah.
And early 2000s.
She was actually in the 101 Dalmatians live action.
Oh my God, she was!
With Jeff Daniels.
Does that fall in our wheelhouse?
I don't know. I'd have to look into it. Her name is Jolie Richardson.
1996. Guess what crappy Disney movie I'm making you watch? We still have to watch Cruella, though. I heard it is actually good. That whole room where the core is in reminds me of the laminate configuration, but it's opposite. It's like a different hellscape because the laminate configuration is a box. This is a round core. This is round with spires and spheres and all that. Sorry, microphone. Detail.
Well, I'm pretty sure that room was influenced by the lament configuration.
Lament? I thought it was laminate.
Lament.
We're going to laminate this configuration. You're going to go to the flat hellscape. I will say this. I believe Smith is the smartest one on that fucking ship. He got the heebie-jeebies right away. Didn't want to be there. He didn't want to mess with it. I think him going after Weir when Weir's mind was bending was the right thing to do. I think if he would have just gotten one good hit into Weir, I think it would have been able to maybe like snap him a little.
I wish this film had delved further into the characters. I wish we had gotten to spend more time with them individually.
Smith is one of the ones where, yeah, he's a badass, he's the smarter one, but we don't know really what was going through his mind at times.
No, like, he's just played off as, like, this fearful, like, angry person, but, like, between him, like, I want to know more about DJ.
Yeah.
Like, DJ is so interesting in this film. Like, he's the guy, he knows Latin. He's a trauma specialist.
Yes.
There's actually an element that I only know about because of the special features, but, like, when his death scene, spoiler alert, he dies, but
he just hangs around.
He gets cut open by Weir, and when they show you his shirt getting ripped open, he has a huge surgical scar. They
left this huge scar out.
And, like, I want to know, like, where did that scar come from? And, like, because you're supposed to somehow get that he has a fear of being operated on. So, like, all the deaths in this movie are supposed to pertain to each of the characters' fears.
Yep.
And his is that, but you never learn that about him. And I wish we had before seeing that.
Like, one of the big things that draws me to DJ is when Smith and Weir are fighting. He grabs a fucking scalpel and puts it to Smith's neck and calmly is like, are you going to stop? Are you going to calm down? And the entire crew, even Miller, calmly back away. Like, they know something's up with DJ. Like, they're not afraid of Smith, even though he shows the tough guy persona. It's DJ. They're like, guys.
It's always the quiet ones.
Oh my God, Jason Isaacs, man. I love that guy. Ooh.
We also get, there's a little bit of influence from The Shining in one scene in this movie.
Oh, where I almost said second Laura Dern. God damn it, Jolie Richardson.
Or Stark sees the blood
and just
rush out of the fucking tank.
But that is a practical effect.
That is a practical
and I believe
effect.
that is actually her. So
Solid.
you've got the sugar glass and what is dyed water, I believe.
Yeah.
Because blood would be too viscous.
Too thick.
Holy shit. Like, by the end of this movie, that girl has been hit in the head, almost drowned, covered in glass, beaten the shit out of, like, almost sucked into space. She's the one that I'm like, yeah, no, Cooper was stuck in space for a little bit. I'll get to how that all is bullshit. But she gets the most abusive, like, all of them. Like, yeah, Baby Bear goes into the dimension, but he's essentially, after the airlock thing, he's done. You don't see that guy perform at all for the rest of the film.
I'm actually kind of surprised. There's a few moments in this movie that are like what would be classified as stunts that the actual actors are doing. Like, two that stuck out to me was like right when they're all in the what do you call it? It's like the command deck of the Event Horizon.
Yeah, the bridge.
And like things are starting to blow up everywhere, and like it's one shot. It's like Sam Neill and Stark there, Jolie.
We both can't do this with her.
Her name is hard to remember,
yeah.
But they're both sitting next to each other, and like the console next to them explodes, and like it's clearly those two actors.
Yep.
And all this debris comes flying at them.
And Smith, the whole front explodes, and he tumbles back, and you're looking right at this guy's face. You're like, that's not a stunt actor. That's that actor rolling away from all of these sparks and debris. That's badass.
And fucking towards the end of the movie, there's that one specific shot, at least, of fucking Lawrence Fishburne when his arm is literally on fire and
yes,
he falls
that
back
is
into
him.
the water.
Because you can tell the scenes where he's just wearing it's a stuntman wearing the Lawrence Fishburne mask.
Yeah.
His face is a little too swollen, hitting the side and then rolling down. But then you see Lawrence's face like
that's
actually
awesome.
Going in the water. You're like, damn.
It's surprising whenever you get an actor to actually do a stunt
He's like,
like
yeah,
that.
I'll do my own stunts. You know the risks involved. Yeah, I'll have a nice scar from this movie. That's pretty badass. Didn't Jason Isaacs at one point when they were doing the scene like this, didn't they say that they somehow rigged him to suspend to kind of give it more of a feeling, then there was more practical with it?
Which scene are we talking about?
The one where he's just hanging around. The scene after he gets his guts ripped out of him. I feel like in the special edition there was something about him like, oh yeah, when I was up there, and I'm like, that's a lot of CG, but they could have practically done that somehow.
Yeah.
But all I remember is, wait, Jason Isaacs is a badass for doing more with that scene, which I thought was cool. Also, isn't that scene where he was like, I really want to take myself home, but they wouldn't let me?
I don't.
The dummy of him being cut open.
Oh,
he wanted to take it home, but they wouldn't let him.
Yeah.
He's like, oh yeah, I wanted my decapitated, boweled corpse at home. Oh, what's one of the moments I wrote? Oh God, where is it? Oh, Dino Man versus the Wizard. That's what I called that scene.
Dino Man versus the Wizard?
Yeah, because Jason Isaacs plays Lucius Malfoy.
Oh.
And Sam Neill is Dr. Grant, right?
Yes, Dr. Grant.
Oh, I almost got a whole group of people mad at me. But I was like, oh, Dino Man versus the Wizard. The Dino Man wins.
Dinosaur Man.
So once the Lois and Clark blow up, they only have 20 hours to fix everything, or else they lose oxygen.
Yes.
Which I believe, that's a hell of a time crunch.
That is a hell of a time crunch.
Like, knowing that you have to fix a hull breach, make sure that you don't use all the oxygen, and that ship is huge, so all the scrubbers that they bring over from the Lois and Clark to the Event Horizon, you're using a lot, you're wasting a lot of your resources to keep the air on, really, in my opinion. I was really aggravated when Miller And everybody would always be like, Dr. Weir, what's going on? What's going on? What's happening? Explain to me where this ship went. The fucking man doesn't know. His brain is breaking just like the rest of yours. How is he supposed to know where this ship has been when he's in the dark just much as everybody else? And I know it's a panic response.
Yes.
But I was getting more and more aggravated with that.
It's very much like you have to look at it in the sense that they're all terrified. They're all trying to figure out what's going on, and he's the only one that would have any technical idea of how this ship works, where it's been, what's going on.
But it's like they vilified him from the beginning for no reason.
They did, for sure.
Any
and for different reasons.
Yeah.
But
any one of those people could have been corrupted by the core. Miller could have been corrupted by the core. You know, but it took the fact that Weir's mind was just easily more breakable than the rest of them. And I feel like they are part of the reason why he was like, nope, I don't have any guilt sucking y'all in with me because you guys have just made me the villain from the beginning.
Well, you'll also have to take into account that he's still dealing with the suicide of his wife, which was somewhat his fault because he was too busy working on this project to be around for her when she needed him most.
Yeah.
Which is like, it's downplayed a bit in the movie, but like he's haunted by her effigy.
And that's another story I wish they fleshed out more. What happened? Like, you're telling me that, like, yes, there is his wife's suicide, and we see it almost played out. Where did that get to that point? Like, why was he so, like, there's a lot, this movie has a lot more questions about the characters than I'd like.
Yeah.
Usually I have questions about the plot. I know where the plot goes. I know what happens. It is cut and dry. The characters just are fleshed out in weird ways. I appreciate the stories of them. I want more to love them even more.
Yeah, this movie doesn't hold up, in my opinion, anymore. And like, I wish it did, because I do remember really enjoying this movie when I was younger. Now, I've seen so many better things that like I don't feel like this works. And honestly, I don't have a lot to say about it. It's kind of, maybe it's the fact that this movie's been like covered by so many other content creators, and like everything has basically been said about it that can be said. But I don't know, I just don't have a lot of opinions.
But I honestly understand why it is a cult classic.
Yes, I definitely get it.
It's what introduced me to cosmic horror. It introduced me to that slight hellscapian thought of, like, oh, what if the... Pause. Want to bang the roof again? Did it jump? Did you hear it jump? It kind of gave me that, like, ooh, space isn't all like, hey, let's go explore. Like, there could be scary fucking shit out there that we don't even understand. And that's why I think I love this movie so much, because I love cosmic horror. I've always loved, Cthulhu and Lovecraft and stuff. We live in Rhode Island. How can you not, like, at least kind of go, oh, what's Lovecraft,
Cosmic horror has been something I've been into for a very long time. Prior to this, technically, I had been introduced to it by Stephen King's It. But that's a different type of cosmic horror, in my opinion.
I like how everybody's different ideas of cosmic horror. It's still cosmic horror, but the possibilities are fucking endless with cosmic horror.
Well, because you're dealing with an idea so large that, like, you're essentially just focusing on the idea of the unknown. Like, something that you cannot fathom being against you. And it's
knowing that
that's pure
you'll
terror.
Never win. You're not going to win against a cosmic horror. There is no physical way a small human being could win against what could be as massive as a fucking galaxy, as terrifying as anything else you've imagined. And I like that unknown, and it's the reason why people are like, oh, are you really excited about outer space travel? No, I'm not.
No.
Nope, I don't care if I never see it in my lifetime. Go touch the moon, go take pictures of Mars. That's great. I don't want to know the rest. I would like to be dead and gone for years before they're like, oh, we found aliens. Great, wonderful, lovely, bye. I'll fuck with demons. I'm okay with ghosts. I'm okay with all that spooky stuff. The minute you're like, aliens, I'm like, peace. I'm out. I gotta go. I'll see you later. Bye. But I really don't have much more about this movie. Like, I have a lot of notes, but we've pretty much jumped and covered them.
Yeah.
Lawrence Fishburne. I feel like this is a precursor to... Oh my god, what is his character in fucking Matrix? Morpheus. It's that badass, I don't give a fuck, I'm not messing with anything. I love that character. And he kind of is that in The Matrix.
Sort of.
So I appreciate him. I appreciate Jason Isaacs. I really do. Other than that, like, it's a lot of... There's a lot of hate. There's a lot of hate in these notes. The one thing I'm bummed about is Smith dies. I wish Smith survived. I wish Smith's pride let him get off that fucking ship. He would have survived if he just listened to Miller and got off that ship.
Hey, there's a bright note. Cooper lives.
The
comic relief.
Because he said...
Black comic relief, by the way.
Yes.
Does not die in this film.
He
That's
does not.
very surprising for a 90s horror.
And he keeps that same, like, mentality. It's like Cooper doesn't get messed with because he was repairing the ship. Smith doesn't get messed with because they stayed on the Lois and Clark. They really didn't step foot into more than the decompression chamber in the Event Horizon. It's everybody else that got on there. Did Stark really didn't get messed with mentally. She more got like the physical.
Yeah, not
shit.
that we saw, no.
It was like only the people that had like regrets or fears that could be messed with.
Yeah. I don't know. Surprisingly, this movie's kind of, now that I think about it, this movie's kind of progressive for a 90s film.
Yeah.
So like, not only do you have the African American comic relief survives the whole movie.
Yep.
But also the
one of the females survived.
Lawrence Fishburne is the hero in the end.
He's like, nope, you're not taking my crew. I'm sacrificing myself. Fuck you.
By the way, I have to mention that I absolutely did love the notion that Miller literally had to actually reach through hellfire in the end in order to save his crew.
Because he's terrified of fire because of what he went through with his friend that died in space in a fire. He literally has to, I gotta brave this in order to save my crew.
Reach through the flames to get the detonator.
Yep.
And save his crew. That's awesome.
The ending of this movie is great because Weir gets he gets part of the crew. He gets Parker, he gets DJ, he gets Smith, he gets Miller. But he doesn't get the other three, so he doesn't get everyone.
Right.
And I think that's nice because they could have just ended it on all of them go back, which would have been interesting. Also putting it in kind of a possible future movies. But I'm glad that this was a one and done scenario movie. There's never been any talk about a second one for this.
Thank God.
I don't know if any of us would be able to handle a second film.
I also think that I've always found that final fight scene to be so slapsticky.
With the fake punches?
The very loud, fake, wacky punch sounds, and like Lawrence Fishburne swinging that thing at Weir.
The tuber goes, dung.
You
dung,
can't have my crew.
Oh my gosh. I was hoping that for the remaster that they did, they would have taken those sound effects out. Like, guys,
Well, that's one of the things, like, with these remasters.
You can see where the budget went. It was not in that.
With these remasters and collector's editions and stuff, they preserve what the movie is. They don't try to change it. It's not Star Wars. It's
Even
not
if
George
they're
Lucas.
sitting there going, "Oh God, guys, can we?" Nope. Okay, we're not.
I honestly appreciate that they don't try to change it. They just try to give you the best possible scan of the movie that they can get.
And I look now with these scans. I look for flaws. There was one flaw, single flaw, and I pointed it out to you, where it's DJ and Miller talking in the cryostasis area. There's a scene where DJ's sitting there, and behind his left shoulder, you can see the plexiglass, the green plexiglass, moving like this, to where it's not just a solid glass tank, it's moving. That is the only error I can see in this whole movie, besides the practical with the clamp.
Yeah.
That's neither here nor there. That was tough in the 90s.
That's not too bad.
No. One error, and this is a Blu-ray remaster scan.
Yeah.
To a movie that they probably didn't think would have that kind of quality to it.
Right.
That's where it holds up. I think it's great. The story captivates you so much, you don't pay attention to the bad fire. Like when the fire's coming at Miller when he's in the core room about ready to have that big fight. You can see the straight line fire, and you're like, that always was like, that seems silly,
Thankfully,
but how
it
are you gonna
quick.
Yeah, like it's very fast, and you're like, oh, it's silly, but it's not taking me out of it completely. It makes me laugh.
Yeah.
But I feel like before they went into cryostasis, after the lifeboat went, they should have had Cooper put the suit back on and go outside the ship and spray paint a warning onto the lifeboat, like, if you come in here, you're risking your own life.
Stay the fuck away.
Run. Get us out and run. Like, because it just made me laugh. And then it ends with Miller getting sucked into the other dimension with Weir. And the other three are, you assume they're safe, but you don't know, because now Stark is having nightmares. Could be trauma nightmares, because that's a lot of trauma you're going through.
Well, I always took that final little moment as a jump scare ending, because horror films had to have them. But I personally think that it was just to kind of cement that, sure, they got out of this nightmare, but
it's never going to go away.
It's never going to leave them. Like, this experience is always going to haunt them.
This is one where the three of them are going to be like, and we're retired. We're never going to space again. Bye.
Yeah. Overall thoughts about the film?
I have very mixed emotions about this film. I loved this film growing up. I thought this was one of the greatest horror movies. You have shown me less impressive ones that I love more. Like, right now, to this day, I think the best horror movie, we can't cover it on the podcast because it's out of our wheelhouse. The best horror movie you have shown me is The Autopsy of Jane Doe. So far. That was incredible. The way they built up the tension, the way they built up the suspense, the way it's just...
You are very much a new horror person.
Yeah, I do. But I'm not going for ridiculous jump scares or craziness. I like the fact that there is a body on a table, and you're just going through all of this being like, is it psychological? Is it fucking supernatural? Like, that movie shocked me. But also, I have not seen even half or even 80% of what you have. So there could be another movie down the line where I think is incredible. There's one movie in our wheelhouse that I first saw it a couple years ago, loved it. I'm afraid I'm not going to like it when we watch it for the podcast, because we're going to. We're going to touch on this movie and you're going to love it. I really don't know how I feel about The Shining.
Well, when we get to that,
that's gonna be a long one, guys.
Your opinion is gonna be valid no matter what, because there's a lot of people who don't like that movie.
And you know what I think spoiled it? Dr. Sleep.
No.
You don't think Dr.
No,
Sleep?
because prior to that, there was a lot of people who just didn't like it.
Really?
Most of them were King purists who like because that movie changes a lot from the book, and people were like, no, that's not how it's supposed to be. This is bullshit.
But it's a any time you have a book, a movie, it's a retelling. It's a reimaginative. I love Lord of the Rings. The book is long. There are parts that are so long, and I've read Lord of the Rings a couple of times. It is hard for me to get through that book. Or all 3 books. Like my book, my copy of the book is one whole book. It's not 3 parts. It's this that it is hard to get through. I love Tolkien. I do. Like, the dedication for Tolkien is ridiculous for me. But I like the movies better. The visuals are beautiful. Peter Jackson did an amazing job with those movies. We can't cover them on the podcast because they came out in 2001. First one. So pissed. But at the same time, you can have people who love the book, purely love the book, and think the movie's shit. Or you have people that purely love the movie and think the book's shit. It's everybody's perspective. Nobody's wrong. That's why opinions are great. Like, you could disagree with us wholeheartedly, love this movie, and never want to listen to this podcast again.
We understand. I hope that's not the case, but we understand.
Honestly. But your opinion's not wrong either. Nobody's opinions are wrong. They're your opinions. That's why being, like, humans is great. You can see, oh, I never thought of it from your perspective. Why am I ripping on this movie so hard right now? Maybe I'm just disappointed. Maybe because we've watched a lot of other films. Or maybe it's because I have a newer appreciation of cosmic horror, and I think this did a piss poor job at fleshing out character stories. There was a lot of plot holes.
Well, I agree. From a cosmic horror standpoint especially, it just doesn't land the way cosmic horror should. This is a science fiction horror with elements of cosmic horror more than anything. Personally, I loved this movie growing up. I still enjoy it for what it is, but it's not what I want it to be anymore.
Yeah.
It's not, like, I've seen so much better examples of this type of film now, and I just don't know, I don't think it holds up as well. The performances are still great, the effects are still great, like the gore, what we do get is awesome.
Oh my god, it's intense and it's amazing at the same time.
However unrealistic some of it might be.
Yeah.
It's I don't know, I just wish it was better.
There's one gore scene where Weir is in the chamber with the black hole thing, and he's ripping his eyes out, but he's ripping his eyes out like this. There's bone right here. Like, if it was here, I'd understand, but he's in his eyebrows, and I'm like,
yeah,
a little more stuff. Like, that's where it loses me, but still, like, the visuals and the dramatic effect are there.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, Paul Anderson, your movie sucks and you should feel bad. No, it's still a good movie.
It's just not enough.
It's not. It's for when we had it, when we were younger, it was great. Now, there's better. This is one where it's like, I'm glad I own it. I'm glad I bought it. I have the collector's edition. It looks really nice on the shelf. It's going to stay there.
Favorites.
Oh my God. I love Smith. I do. I love Smith. I think he's a great character. I wanted more out of Smith. I wanted him to be a little more tortured. I wanted more of his backstory. Why is he so angry? Why is he, like, about ready to fight Weir, like, constantly from the not from, like, the middle, but from the beginning. He was just like, all right, yeah, this is bullshit, bye. Like, my favorite line in this whole movie is Cooper coming back in from outside. He just wasted all of his oxygen to boost him to the ship, and he's like, don't hit me. You coming in with the axes and shit. Just hearing that little, don't hit me. Like, that's it. I lose my fucking mind every time. I'm like, that's so cute. I will say my favorite scene is DJ's scene. Just knowing what I know now about him having that huge scar, and knowing his fear of going under the knife again, and physically being slowly cut by Weir and killed that way. That is my favorite scene, because Jason Isaacs gives you his entire feelings just in his eyes. Like, oh, there is a reason why this man is such an amazing actor. Like, those scenes in the last 2 movies for Harry Potter where you just, or the last 4, where you just see Lucius deteriorate from I'm a Death Eater to Voldemort doesn't care about me and my family to I want out to lanky, terrible, horrible looking, and they just grab each other as a family and walk the fuck away. Like, his performance is in his face. And I can't think of any other movies he's in right now because these are the only 2 that sit with me. But he is an amazing facial performer.
He doesn't get enough work.
He doesn't.
As far as I'm concerned.
He
is a fantastic actor.
Hollywood, call Mr. Isaacs because I need more of that facial acting. It doesn't matter if in this movie where I believe he was in his 20s or 30s, and now he's in his 50s. That man, his eyes are... He can act with just those eyes alone. It's perfect.
He's incredible.
If I ever meet that man, I'm going to be like, can I just stare in your eyes for a good, 20 seconds? It's not creepy. I just want to know how you feel, you know?
Well, I definitely have a few favorites. As always, I wrote down all my favorite lines. First one would have to be, "There's no way I'm getting on that bastard."
Yup. Smith.
Basically, most of Cooper's dialogue throughout the film is hilarious.
You want something hot and black inside of you?
That's the best one. What about you, Stark? You want something hot and black inside you?
It's coffee. She's talking about coffee, guys. It's coffee.
Sam Neill's explanation on the gravity drive. It was iconic then. It's been ripped off completely line for line by so many other films. I love my absolute favorite scene in the whole movie is that moment when DJ holds the knife to Smith's throat.
It's intense.
Because it perfectly illustrates the mental strain that all these characters are under. And I think my favorite line of the whole movie, because of it's so well placed, is right when the crew are watching the violent footage of the former crew, and Miller turns it off and just goes, "We're leaving."
Yep.
It's just perfect.
Get out. We're done. Adios, motherfuckers.
Does it work?
No. It does not. It doesn't work because it's missing so much. It is a good movie. But it would be great if it wasn't missing those small little plot holes. The whole thing about DJ and his scar. Like, there's a whole scene we're missing about Weir and the Event Horizon when they find out it's back. There's numerous scenes throughout the ship that we're missing that are character building moments that were taken out for more tension, for more horror. I would have liked to have seen a little more of Weir's psychological break throughout the movie to where, like, oh, he's gonna be the main bad guy. He's not the main bad guy. He's just a pawn. And I wish it would have been more of, like, him breaking down, because he goes from what's happening to instant bad guy, and there's more, I know, in the middle. It doesn't work for me now. It did back then, but it doesn't, because there are so many more movies, even shittier movies, that work so much better because they flesh out the story, even if the movie as a whole isn't great. So, nope, it does not work.
I have to agree. Like, I don't think it really works anymore. Visually, the movie works great. The performances are for the most part good, but the plot, the story just isn't enough.
Yeah.
Like, I think the elements are there. They just didn't flesh them out enough. They didn't do enough with it. I don't think it's a bad experience.
No.
I think anybody could still watch it today and find some enjoyment in it. It's just not... It's not going to be super memorable.
It's not the movie you reach for when you're like, oh, I really want to watch... It's a rainy Sunday. I want to watch a movie. This isn't what you're reaching for.
You might throw this on if you're, like, cleaning the house or something.
Or,
but...
you know, your friends are over and you guys want a background music or background noise while you're gaming.
Yeah.
That's a big thing where I see a lot of people put on, like, YouTube or movies or series in the background when they're gaming. Like, this is one of those that I'd put on if I was playing, like, I don't know, an Alien game. Like
Alien Isolation
yes,
or something
I'd put
like
this
that.
on because it would add to the element of like, oh my god, I'm in space. I'm, gonna get fucked up by an alien. Like, this would add to it. Yeah.
Would you recommend it?
I still would recommend this. I would recommend it as, do you want to see what 90s horror looked like? This is a good example of late 90s horror. Of what, like... of what the ideas were without the use of, like, technology. There was no real, like, technology evidence. There was, like, iPad. You could see some sort of, like, things like that, but, like, they had minimal imagination with the technology part. So it's a good time capsule of that horror error.
Well, all right. So first of all, yes, I would recommend it to the right people. I would recommend it to people who just like generic horror. I think anybody like that would...
Who like gore.
People who like gore.
Yeah.
At least marginal gore.
Yeah. This is a baby step into the gore stuff, though.
I do think you're right about the technology, but however, I do also think that because of the influences that this movie has, Hellraiser and Alien specifically, Alien was essentially truckers in space. So there isn't much in terms of technology in that movie, and I think that's the same thing that they were going for here. But yeah, I would definitely... I think people will still enjoy this. I'd probably recommend it to most of, like, my family. If they wanted a horror film, I'd be like, yeah, check out Event Horizon.
Yeah, I mean, I'd recommend this to, like, my siblings. They probably would love this.
I wouldn't recommend this to die-hard horror fans.
No.
Like, people who
they will laugh at you. They will. They'll be like, why are you picking this movie? Like, it's a fun ride on an afternoon when you got nothing to do.
Like, if you're looking for, like, extreme horror, don't watch Event Horizon.
No.
There's so many better options.
If somebody's like, oh, I kind of want to watch a horror movie, what would you recommend? Here you go. They would be fucking mortified by this movie. They would. But somebody who's like, oh, my favorite movie to watch on the weekend is fucking, I don't know, Hellraiser and fucking Drag Me to Hell. No, I only pulled Drag Me Out of Hell because I saw it on a Facebook
Well,
post.
I'd recommend this to those people.
Oh, you would recommend?
Yeah.
See, I would be like, okay, this is a fun romp, but it's nothing like those.
I'm saying, like, people who are, like, looking for, like, the most shocking shit ever seen.
The people that are waiting for the third installment of Into the Darkness. The 80s.
Those people have all seen this.
Yeah, those people are like, this is child's play. Another horror movie.
How would you do this differently today?
I wouldn't touch this one. I'd leave this where it is. I only because I believe this has been done several times. Event Horizon was like the first, but I think others have tried to do it again. I wouldn't touch this one. I'd leave it where it is.
You see, I have to disagree.
Really?
I personally think that this is a movie that, like, it doesn't need one, but I think it could benefit greatly from from someone who was willing to take the time to reinvent this film.
Limited series?
Limited series could be very interesting.
It would flesh out the characters a lot more, where you take an episode and see the character.
Yeah.
Oh, now I've got an idea where you take a character each episode and you go from start to finish and you see the whole journey of them, but you don't see the other characters' stories. So you do one at a time and then a culmination of the end of all of them.
I think if you were to do this as a limited series, you'd have to do it like any other. Give everybody enough time, but, like, delve deeper into each of them along the way. And I think this could be even just a really well-crafted remake would be very beneficial. Like, I think you could do a lot more with this.
Don't lose the footage, guys.
Just don't lose the footage.
Just don't lose the footage. I know that footage is probably some of the most terrifying, because you've told me details about where there were actual prostitutes that they hired for that scene.
I believe...
Or the rumor mill?
Yeah, because, like, if you look very closely into
there is a little bit of sex happening.
There's, like, people, like, fucking other people while cutting them open and shit. It's pretty violent.
It's very violent. And back then I was like, oh, that's so scary. Now, morbid curiosity, I'm like, I want to see the uncut version. And that's what drew me to it, because they were like, guys, we think we found it. And my heart broke every time they were like, no, that wasn't it. We're going to keep searching. And it's like, no.
You see, it's when you talk about that type of stuff that makes me wonder if it would be worth watching some of the, like, SOV, shot on video, ultra violent films.
Look, the only one right now I will not watch is Slaughtered Vomit Dolls. That sounds horrifying.
That is horrifying.
That is the only... I can't handle the noise.
That's not horrifying. That's pure grotesquerie.
No, that's the only one. I mean, you've talked about August Underground quite a few times. I'm very tempted to see how long I would last.
There's some ultra violent shit, and maybe we'll get into some of that eventually. Maybe.
That's going to have to be something that if we get into, it's going to have to be like on a website, selected people, like that's going to be a lot.
That might actually have to be a
limited series for us.
That might actually have to be a whole different podcast in and of itself. But
there's a whole genre of movies that we can't really get into.
What do you guys think?
Yeah.
You want to see us cover some of that level of shit? Let us know. Maybe we'll eventually do it. Is this exploitation or other?
Yes. I say it is other because it's cosmic horror. It's horror. And it's got the whole, like, grotesque gore kind of, like, that one scene that it was, like, everybody knows that all of that horrifying stuff is in it. So, yes, I'm going to say this was exploitation.
I will respectfully disagree.
Respectfully?
This was not exploitation.
What?
This was just standard 90s horror. Like, this was...
It broke the mold for... Nobody was doing this grotesque, this horrifying, this, like...
People had done much worse, much sooner.
I don't know shit about movies. I don't. I know absolutely nothing.
I don't think this was... this qualifies at all. This is just a standard 90s film, personally.
Standard 90s film is She's All That. And
standard 90s horror.
All right, thank you. I'm gonna say, let's talk about, 10 Things I Hate About You is standard 90s film.
You have anything else to add to this discussion?
Look, Paul Anderson, let me talk to you for a second. I am a faithful Resident Evil fan. Faithful. I love Resident Evil. I love everything. I love Milla Jovovich from Resident Evil, Fifth Element, all of her crazy acting. Like, I've followed her career. Like, I loved this movie growing up. I don't love it as much now as an adult. Only because there is better. I will never say, don't watch this. This is stupid. It's not. It's not stupid. The ideas were there. They were great. I wish you would have tried a little harder. But I'm still a fan. I will never not be a fan of his stuff. I still think Resident Evil is your best film. We'll get to that eventually. As he shudders in his chair. As he's like, we are broken up now. Get out of my house.
I wouldn't go that far.
That's if I say Shining is the worst movie ever made.
Everybody can be wrong. All right, that brings this discussion to an end. But don't go anywhere just yet. Stay tuned for the coming attractions.
In the 21st century, a weapon will be invented like no other. This weapon will be powerful, versatile, and indestructible. It can't be reasoned with. It can't be bargained with. It will feel no pity, no remorse, no pain, no fear. It will have only one purpose: to return to the present and prevent the future. This weapon will be called the Terminator.
You're dead, honey.
What day is it? The date!
12th May, Thursday.
What year?
I'm here to help you. I'm Reese, DN 38416, assigned to protect you. You've been targeted for termination.
Why does it want me? Why me?
Arnold Schwarzenegger is the Terminator. Your future is in its hands.
Are you prepared?
No.
Are you excited?
I hate Terminator. I hate Terminator. I hate the series. I think they're stupid.
But you loved Event Horizon.
I...
So, there's a chance you could change your mind.
Oh. My dad would watch these on like Saturday and Sunday afternoon because they'd be on like TNT and shit. I hated these movies. But as a kid, I hated Predator and I grew to love Predator.
I'm hoping I can change your mind with at least this one.
Oh.
Because there's a different side to this, which we will get into in the next episode. That I'm hoping you'll be able to see it from. I'm hoping you'll be able to look at it a different way.
I don't want to do this one. I don't want to.
It's going to be fun. For more recommendations on films or coffees that you should check out, if you want to check out our movie collection, or see some fun behind the scenes, or chat with us, recommend us some movies, check us out and follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Grindhouse Podcast. We're on Twitter at Grindhouse Cast. Find us on our Discord, where you can mostly just chat with Leah, and all the links for all of that are going to be down in the show notes. Listen to us and give us 5 stars on Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, or wherever you get your morning fix. New episodes can be found first thing every Monday morning. If you're listening to the podcast and want a more visual experience, subscribe to us on YouTube, where you can see every episode in its entirety with video. If you like what we're doing and you want to show us some support, all that information's down in the show notes as well. Until next week, I'm Shawn.
I'm Leah.
Thank you for listening, and keep watching.
Bye, kids.